So we had a lot of stuff happen in May. The usual, 200 plus PRs were merged in, and we have a lot of new contributors this time compared to the last month. So that's great to see. More than almost 20 new contributors, a total of almost 50. I think hopefully we got it all right, and you can see yourself there. The things I'm really excited about, and we'll talk about some of these today, are a bunch of product improvements. We're now surfacing DBT test outcomes. We're merging DBT and warehouse nodes to give you a consolidated view. You're able to now manage related glossary terms via the UI as well. And I think Chris will go into some of that. A lot of improvements to user invitations. So you're getting much easier for you to onboard people onto DataHub. And finally, you are now able to create and revoke access tokens via the UI. This was a common requirement. No one wants access tokens to be floating around and not be revocable. So I think that was a pretty welcome security addition. On the metadata integration side, we now finally support CSV imports for metadata, and Aditya will be walking us through what we've done. Snowflake, we have improvements to the ingestion connector that allow you to profile data only if it has changed within the recent period. That allows you to keep your profiling costs low and only focus on the most relevant tables. And we have a bunch of new sources: Iceberg, Vertica, SAP HANA, and also SAP HANA, and also Delta Lake that I'll be talking about in a bit. And finally, on the Dev Experience Plus platform, Maggie already talked about this. We have finally got the Java Kafka emitter. So if you are in an ecosystem where you don't want to be susceptible to the DataHub service being up or deal with the round trip to the DataHub API, you can just emit your metadata to Kafka directly. So that's pretty much all of the highlights. There's obviously a lot more that happened, and I would highly encourage you looking through the release notes and the changelog if you're interested in more details of everything that's changed. One big thing that happened was, and this is something Chris, I think, hinted at last time, right, is we finally got the lineage page looking much more integrated with the impact analysis capability. So when you click on lineage now, you automatically get both downstream and upstream tabular views, but we've kind of unified tabular views to basically be search views, right? So anytime you're looking up or down the lineage graph, you're able to filter down by degree of dependencies, types of entities, and things like that. And of course, that helpful hamburger on the right that allows you to download your final filtered down results so that you can do something interesting with it. So that's, I think, rolled out to all dataset entities and probably to the pipelines and tasks as well, right, Chris? So it's a pretty easy way for you to get a sense of downstream and upstream lineage in a much more tabular search kind of abstraction, I would say. Chris, anything to add there?
Nothing for me. That was good. Thanks, Shirshanka.
Okay, cool. All right. So next thing we want to talk about is just give you guys an update on how Spark integration has been going so far and with the whole Spark ecosystem. I just talked at Data and AI Summit yesterday, and it was a pretty well-attended talk. And I think Maggie will send out recordings once they're published. And one of the things we were really excited to talk about was kind of the evolution of DataHub's integration with the Spark ecosystem. So some of you might be already familiar with this, but I'll just give a quick refresher. The way we integrate with Spark is a few different ways. One is if you're running Spark jobs, you can drop in the DataHub Spark listener, which is available as a jar from the Maven repository. And all you have to do is point it to the DataHub REST server. And every time a Spark job runs, it's going to observe what happened and emit both DAG level lineage, which is the pipeline, as well as the tasks that ran within it, as well as dataset to job to dataset lineage. So this has been there for a while, but it's getting more and more mature, and a lot of people are starting to use it. This is what it looks like when you actually run one of these. You end up finding a pipeline in your data hub. And then when you go click on it, you can see the tasks that are within it. And then when you look at the lineage for the task itself, you can see what tables it read and what tables or folders it wrote to. There's obviously some work that we are continuing to do in terms of, you might have noticed on the Airflow side, we are now starting to capture run level execution details and run level lineage. So that will come to the Spark emitter as well very soon. And that will allow to you to even look at lineage over time. Also, you might be familiar that we allow you to integrate with Databricks over the Hive interface. So if you're running Databricks, all you have to do is point DataHub to the Databricks workspace URL. You add a few additional, magic incantations to the config, and you're ready to go in terms of connecting up to Databricks and getting all the schemas out. Some recent fixes were done actually to pull out nested structs correctly. So you'll see some improvements there in terms of our ability to pull out table schemas. And just yesterday we announced, and this is the first time we're announcing in the town hall, integration with Delta Lake. And Spark or Databricks actually open sourced the Delta Lake engine yesterday. So it's now, I guess, called Delta Lake 2.0. But really what this allows people to do is whether they're on Databricks or not, they're able to use Delta Lake as an open data lake table format. And that's cool because that means you are not locked into Databricks, I guess, as a vendor when you're deciding where to run your Spark workload. So I think we'll see what the industry does with it. It'll be interesting to see how Delta Lake takes off outside compared to, Iceberg and Hoodie. And as you know, we already support those other data lake formats. So it was just natural for us to also build integration with Delta Lake. And I'm very excited that we now have an integration with it. All you have to do is point us to the top level folder under which all your Delta tables live. And DataHub will automatically scan those folders and extract out the Delta tables and the schemas associated with them. So this is now available for you to try out. Support status is incubating. We're still making some, the basic functionality is working. We're making some improvements to it, and I'll talk about that in just a bit. Here's what an actual Delta table looks like when you ingest it using this connector. So Maggie, you'll be happy to see that pet profiles from Longtail Companions is now a Delta Lake table.
Yay!
And it looks pretty much similar to the Snowflake table, other than the fact
just
that
as we expected. That's great.
Yeah, not much to see here, and that's actually good, other than the logo change. So that's pet profiles on Delta Lake. That's what it looks like if you were to use Databricks as your lakehouse or Delta Lake as your lakehouse. Moving forward, this is basically a way to think about how to integrate with the Spark ecosystem. You've got jobs that are running on Spark, and those are emitting push-based emitting pipeline DAG definitions, as well as lineage between data sets and jobs. And then if you've got Databricks Hive or just Spark Hive, I guess, you can get schemas out from it. And with the new addition with Delta Lake, you're also able to get, we're working on this actually, you're able to get schemas, but then you'll soon also be able to get statistics as well as the transaction log. And that I think is super cool, because now you'll be able to literally look at how this data set evolved over time and what were the changes made to it, get schema history and all of that stuff coming straight from the Delta Lake log. Another thing that Databricks announced yesterday or day before yesterday was their Unity catalog. And so that's another catalog solution that's available inside the Databricks ecosystem for Databricks customers. And that's on our roadmap to integrate with in the next quarter. So that would basically round out our integration with the Spark ecosystem pretty nicely. So that's a Spark integration update. And I'll now hand it over to Tamash to talk about some cool improvements we've made to making sure that ingestion recipes are not dead on arrival.
Yeah, so let me share my screen so I just quickly show you. I guess all of you who edited some recipe in DataHub, you had this experience, you had some kind of, you opened your favorite YAML editor and you started to write in the recipe, and then in the end you tried to run it, and then usually what happened, actually, not this one. Shoot, I'm sorry. Just give me a sec. Okay. Anyway, so it seems like my local is broken. So anyway, so usually what happened, you just get some error that, hey, there were fields which are extra fields and you need to fix it. And you might wonder that, hey, there should be some better way to edit this. And it would be great if you could use your favorite editor like VS Code or IntelliJ editing these recipes. And from now on, it's basically possible. So any editor, what you have, and have some kind of YAML support, and also schema validation, and it supports like working with schemastore.org. Then the only thing you need to do to turn your editor to a DataHub recipe editor is just adding dhub.yaml to the name of your recipe file, and then just open the recipe with your favorite editor. And what you can see here in the bottom right corner, it's automatically will pick up the schema from the internet. So based on your extension, and immediately you can see, hey, there is some problem with these two fields. And you can use the same way, like with your control space to, you know, just to fix these issues. Also, you might not know what schema pattern is, and previously you had to go back and forth on the DataHub documentation, but now you can get everything in the editor. So I think it's much more easier to editing these recipes and changing it or adding any new field. As you can see, it's quite easy. And yeah. And basically, that's it. So you just name your recipe as dhub.yaml or something like dhub.yaml, open your favorite editor, and it just works magically.
Thanks, Tomasz. All right, let's move on to the
quick call out for Tomasz. When we were building this out, one of the things we were definitely thinking about was people will probably want to say, can I connect it to a specific version of the library? And that's exactly what I'm seeing in the chat. So we hear you. That's coming next, being able to basically validate the version of the schema against a specific, the ingestion recipe against a specific version. We actually have all of the metadata we need for this. We just have to figure out exactly how to publish it and make sure that the recipe is pulling it down correctly. The extension is pulling it down correctly. So stay tuned. And if you have ideas for how to do it, or you've done something like this before, obviously all of this is backed by JSON schema. Definitely DM us and we can actually figure out how to do this.